Hello guys, we are back again with the Dan Wesson 715 CO2 revolver. So this airsoft revolver again, you saw me unbox it a few videos back. Now the big thing today is going to be the full-on review of this particular pistol. Now I'm going to get into the ins and outs of this particular revolver, and of course we're going to talk about the shells as well and everything else in between. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and let's get right down to it. Alright, so let's take a look actually at the exterior quality of this particular revolver. I guess when I first unboxed it, I was truly amazed at the fact that this has, first of all, no plastic on it, or if there is any, it is very minimal, but more so just nice stainless steel looking material for the metal. And then of course you get the rubberized hand grip. So that already is awesome. I definitely love rubber grips on airsoft replicas. I think it's just absolutely awesome. It just adds more quality to the actual gun itself. I mean, we can see up close that the overall build of this particular revolver is just very well done. ASG did a super fantastic job again with the exterior and just the overall firing of this particular revolver as well, since I've had a few days to really test it out and shoot it. But anyway, you can get an up-close view. Again, it's kind of dirty, but if you take a microfiber cloth and wipe this thing up, it is just going to be very, very shiny. The cylinder itself, you do have the button down here that you push down to push out the actual cylinder to put in the rounds, essentially. So again, overall, very well built. You can see kind of an in-depth view of the inside of that cylinder. Very well done. The nice thing too is if you press on the end here, it actually helps eject out the shells. So this particular revolver does come with a speed loader for the shells, which I'll cover in just a little bit. So again, super beneficial for fast reloads. And then here's again the front of that cylinder. The nice thing that's very just satisfying is the click sound when you put the cylinder back into the actual revolver. Again, just very nice and clean. And the nice thing too with this revolver, which my other Dan Wesson revolver does not really do well, is if you want to do kind of like the hand flip to close the actual barrels, or the cylinder, I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to do it with the angle that I'm in, but again, just that to me is super satisfying, especially when you load it up. And well, obviously my field attempts are not really going too well, but again, you get the point. But yeah, if we're looking at the top portion of the pistol itself, again, you have some of these little holes on the top and on the bottom, so you can actually put some kind of accessories if you choose to do so. You have a very nice mock port or ventilation system. Again, that's just part of the design of this particular revolver. Doesn't really have any use, it's just kind of there. Not familiar with the real steel model if these are actually functioning ports, but again, you guys can probably fill me in on that in the comments. The only thing really that's, I think, plastic is going to be this sight here. So the rear one, again, it is adjustable. It's removable as well in case you wanted to mount some kind of optic on it. This is, it looks like it is metal, so very nice there. And then when we get into the hammer assembly, again, just the overall pulling the hammer back and just the function is really nice. I do have a CO2 cartridge already in here, so I'm not going to full on pull the trigger. I'll get to that portion of it shortly. But again, very smooth. If you want to decock the revolver, you just hold down the hammer, press the trigger, and then just slowly release to disengage it. So very fluid, very smooth. If we look on the other side, you do get some of those trademarks. So we have, of course, Dan Wesson on both sides of the barrel, and then you get into the 357 Magnum that's stamped on the side as well, followed by ASG, which is the manufacturer, and then of course you get the actual trade of it being made in Taiwan. that it is a 6mm BB caliber. Then continuing with trademarks, again, the DW for Dan Wesson is also stamped on the actual grips. This side, again, you just have the design of the pattern, but no stamping. This other side, again, for the most part, is blank. You do have a small serial number right above the trigger there. Nothing too crazy, but again, there's the Dan Wesson logo there. So overall exterior build, I mean, if I were to give this out of maybe 10 points, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, I'd give it a 10, to be quite honest. A lot of airsoft pistols definitely don't mirror this kind of exterior quality, and for the price that you pay, for around 115 bucks, it's a pretty good deal. Very well done. So again, we talked about this revolver. It is CO2 powered, so keep in mind CO2 is going to be a much higher pressured gas. Therefore, this revolver is going to, again, just fire that BB at a very extreme velocity. So I will actually show you some chrono tests in just a moment as far as how much FPS we're talking. We'll get to that part shortly. But anyway, when it comes to inserting the actual CO2 cartridge, it is going to be located towards the hand grip, as would imagine with a revolver, since there really isn't anywhere else to put it. So when we're looking at the bottom of the hand grip, you're going to get a Allen key screw or Allen screw, and then you'll also get a little divot in here for you to put your finger through. So that little divot is where you're going to put your finger, and you're going to pretty much go upward with it as far as trying to take it off. And that's again how you take off the cover. It's fairly snug, which again I like that. That means the grip is not cheaply made. It's actually on there pretty good. And then it just literally comes off like so. So if we're looking at it a little closely, you can see that it's kind of a mix of some kind of a pot metal type of material and rubber around it. The nice feature too is it does actually come with an Allen key built in, so you can essentially use this as a tool to again loosen or tighten the CO2 cartridge. Now, quite honestly, I feel like I don't have enough leverage or grip when I'm using this, and I feel like if I'm not turning it fast enough, the CO2 may escape as you're tightening it further in, and it might even slip out of the actual bolt that's on the bottom. So I'm a bit iffy on it, to be quite honest. I use a regular Allen key for it, and I found more success that way. So just kind of my tip there. The other thing too with this hand grip, there's a little divot here on the end, and this divot actually goes into this slot. So when you're putting it in, you pretty much have to align that little divot at the top, put it into the slot, and then clamp it down, and then again you can see that everything's sealed just fine. But I'm going to open this back up really quick to give you kind of a closer view of the CO2 cartridge. So again, here we have the CO2, and again you can see kind of the light just glistening off of that. It's just beautiful. So here's a CO2 cartridge. It takes a regular 12 gram CO2 cartridge. Usually what I recommend, if you have a CO2 type of pistol or anything that takes CO2, dab a little bit of some kind of GBB oil, a silicone oil, on the tip of the CO2 cartridge. It won't make any of that hissing sound when you tighten it, and it just lubricates the actual rubber portions in the top that actually sit on the tip of the CO2 cartridge. So again, it's just for lubrication. It doesn't hurt, and again, quite simple to put it back on, and it's good to go to fire at that point. Now the other thing too, before I get into the quick chrono of this, I did want to showcase again these shells that come with the actual Dan Wesson revolver. Now I have 2 of them here. So this is the one that actually came with the pistol. Again, you can see that they're nice and shiny new. You get this little black speed loader as well, which is super convenient. Now if you see that button there in the middle, when it makes contact with the cylinder, it springs the shells into the cylinder. So I'll show you that in a minute, but if I press it with my finger, it ends up opening up the shells. So as you can see, a couple of them popped out, but they're kind of loose right now, and they come out without any force whatsoever. So once you put it in there, you take this little springy portion of it and you push towards the shells like this, and then you twist it to the right. and that locks it in, and now you can see that they're not going anywhere. So then when it came to loading it, once you put in your BBs, again, it's a 6 shooter, so the capacity is quite obvious here. It's a 6 shot. Once you're ready, again, you open up your cylinder, you take your speed loader, again, you line it up with the cylinder itself, and then you just give it a little press. And again, it just shoots them in, and then you are good to go. So again, super cool as far as speed loading, very easy. It helps a lot if you have a few of these, then the revolver becomes fairly practical, because then you can pretty much dump your shells. Usually what I can do is I would just line it up with the cylinder, my speed loader, and then I would just shake them back in, so then they don't go all over the place, and then that way when it comes to loading them again, you're ready to go. So again, just one more time. Super satisfying, I gotta say, when you do this. Put them in, and then I can't do it. I'm really close to the table and it's just not working out. But anyway, you get my point. I'll try to do it a little bit when I do the chrono itself. So let's get into the quick chrono and we'll see what this thing is shooting at the moment. Alright, so I got my 6 shooter going here. I got my chrono, so we'll kind of zoom in a little bit more as we continue to fire this. So now I'm going to just go ahead and get the revolver going, and then we'll begin the test. Again, that revolver, or that speed loader, is super quick. I already got everything going. So as far as CO2 goes, I've only fired about maybe 15 to 20 rounds out of this thing, so it still definitely has a good amount of CO2 left. This is probably what you would expect to see as far as consistent FPS, because typically the first 10 shots of a fresh CO2 canister is always going to be pretty hot. So we'll go ahead and we'll commence the firing here. So first one's 430, 420, 405, 396, 413, 410. So that was the 6th shot. So again, you're kind of seeing, for an example, it's right around the high 3s to low 4s as far as FPS goes, with 0.2 gram BBs. Alright, so again, we got a chance to do the test. We saw that, again, the chrono came to about the high 300s, low 400 FPS, so this is shooting quite hot. This would actually exceed the CQB range, which is usually 350 and below. As far as being okay to fire, this would probably be better for me, maybe more of like a Woodlands type of a game where the FPS limit is a little bit higher. Now again, that's expected with CO2 to have a very high FPS. So again, very well, it fires super smooth. The other thing I forgot to mention is this thing is double action, which the definition of double action is where you don't need to pull the hammer back each time. You can just squeeze the trigger and it will fire. So it is cleared right now, so I'll just do a quick example of firing with double action. So again, that's kind of what I mean. You can also pull the hammer back and fire too. Really does not make a difference, but the option is there for you depending on how comfortable you are and what your preferred trigger pull style is. Alright, well, to summarize, just my overall thoughts on this revolver. I think it's just spectacular. Again, I complimented a lot of the exterior features, the excellent power, excellent efficiency is another thing that I wanted to touch on that. It's super efficient because there's less moving parts, therefore gas consumption is not as crazy, so you get more shots out of your CO2 canister. So again, that's awesome when it comes to revolvers. That's typically the same story for any revolver. Now, again, there's really not a whole lot of negatives because I think for the price point, which again is about $115 is what you'll typically see it retail for, it is pretty good for that kind of a price point, which in my opinion, ASG exceeded expectations, at least for me, and I'm hoping for you too if you do pick one of these up. again, I will continue to fire this thing more, but I've had already a good amount of time with it. Shot through a few CO2 cartridges, several hundred rounds already, and to be honest, there's really not a whole lot of negative for me to say about this thing. This thing is just amazing. I did buy this actually on e-bike. On their website, so always my go-to vendor for a lot of things like this. And again, they did a great job with fast shipping, and they again deliver great products. Again, they work with great manufacturers which deliver great products. But anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I will do a shooting demonstration video as the next topic for this gun to finally wrap up the review of it. We got a chance to see again a more detailed and in-depth review. Got a chance to chrono it a little to see an FPS reading, and again just some pros and cons, which again there's more positives than negatives in this case for me. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and again feel free to check out the rest of my channel. I have a lot of other airsoft related content on this channel. Definitely something I'm sure you'll enjoy if you like this video. But thanks again and have a good day.